Back again with more animation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to be talking My Neighbor Totoro today, which was, I think, it might have been my first Studio Ghibli film that I really latched onto. Yeah. And I think Totoro has become in a lot of ways, I kind of saw him as being like the Ghibli version of Mickey Mouse. You know, he's kind of become this larger than life element. I mean, he's featured on the title card for Studio Ghibli in the film. So we're going to break down My Neighbor Totoro, and then we're going to silently judge my neighbors. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoetheFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and today we're going to continue our investigation on animation, and we're going to do one of the first Studio Ghibli films. It's My Neighbor Totoro, right?
My Neighbor Totoro.
Totoro. I'm working on that. Thank you for watching, subscribing, and listening. Tell your friends, tell your girlfriends, tell your boyfriends about the show. You can contact the show by commenting down below. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter as we explore more animation. Today, Studio Ghibli, what we got?
So we're going to talk about My Neighbor Totoro, which follows sisters Satsuki and Mei as they move to a rundown house in the country to be closer to their ill mother. When they discover that the nearby forest contained forest spirits that are preserving the nature around them. Satsuki and Mei learn much from these spirits, led by the strange and unusual King Totoro. So this film is based in part on Hayao Miyazaki's childhood.
His mother real life
from tuberculosis, which is the unnamed, cause for the illness in this film. He actually chose to change the genders of the two kids to girls because he felt that would distance himself from the pain that would have caused him to go back to this story. So I think that's a beautifully simple way to hey, it's not me, it's someone else, and you kind of look at it from a different perspective.
I still thoroughly enjoy. One of my favorite things is watch people run in Studio Ghibli films. Mm-hmm. It's just so fun.
Yep.
Yeah. I wish I could run like that. Yeah.
There's an element of there's a quirkiness to it.
Right. Yeah.
That is beloved.
What really was winning, and I think a lot of times movies, you have to have a lucky break. In '88, we were bombarded with a lot of foreboding films. We had a lot of horror movies were really winning at the time. There's a lot of great horror movies of '88, and you do something that's a completely contrast and probably sell a lot better is an animation that's really benign at both, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the monsters, even though it's ghost and haunted, they're not really threatening, but they're as haunted. I mean, they're just like dust bunnies or something like that.
Yeah, there's an element of
freshness.
A lot of Studio Ghibli films where there's kind of some unnervingness to a lot of the creature design, and there's just something that's kind of
off.
It's kind of it is not of this world almost, and it's probably from the cultural aesthetic of having a film not made in America. Yeah. But I think what's beautiful about it is that Totoro is a very weird character.
Yeah.
But it's so accessible, and it's so he's just kind of a lovely character. He's a lovely person to just watch on film.
He's severely introverted.
Yeah.
You have to go to him, right, instead of him come to you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, benign is probably the right word I would say. There's nothing really threatening. Obviously, the May gets lost, and we know there's going to be some kind of resolution. There's really no sense of danger, but it is interesting. I'm trying to avoid the word safe. Mm-hmm. Even though everything seems safe. The neighbors are friendly to them. Hi, neighbors, nice to meet you. Plants seem to grow well. Mm-hmm. And there's this sense of whimsy to it.
Yeah, I likened the film to it's a comforting film. You know, where there's not a lot of extreme darkness in the film.
Yeah. Except when they move into the house, right?
Yeah, there's elements of kind of unnervingness and it's sad moments. When they deal with the fact that their mother is sick and they don't know if she's going to live or die. I mean, that's some pretty heavy stuff to put in your film. Disney just goes ahead and shoots the mother right at the beginning and then lets Bambi take off. But Studio Ghibli takes moments to really make you understand that pain, that concern, especially that childlike wonder too, where you don't understand all that's going on. That's why I think that's one of the reasons they never name it as tuberculosis. Is for one thing to make it accessible to people who have lost loved ones to other things, but also I think because we're the kids in the film, we don't understand why mom is sick.
Yeah, there's a certain juvenile point of view to this, a lot of it, because even though the kid, he's concentrated a lot on the kids. Hey, Studio Ghibli, you can have a lot of old people and a lot of really young people.
But I think Miyazaki's very good at capturing that childlike wonder. He does it in this film. He does it masterfully in Spirited Away. The studio itself has captured like that element really well, where regression is so easy to get back into the eyes of, and you can understand even if culturally I'm not there. I do understand it from a character perspective because we've all been kids, especially moving into a scary house. They've got these dust bunnies, or I think what they call Susuwatari or soot gremlins.
Yeah, soot gremlins, right? Yeah.
Which are featured in Spirited Away as well. So it's kind of got an element of cinematic universe, maybe.
So there's definitely a sense, and I'm going to use again, benign. Mm-hmm. Even though like tuberculosis, some things are there's a sense of danger, but we know there's never going to really a sense of real danger to this. But right there's the scene, or the rain scene, the very famous rain scene of them waiting for the bus, and it's very dark in the lamppost and everything, and that could have been, oh, we're gonna go dark here. No, there's Toro.
Yeah, he's kind of there, and and again, like, not having a character that speaks, that has to like completely
use his eyes,
using the eyes, using the breath, and there's just again like there's cute is almost like seen as like a bad term, but there is a like comforting way of seeing this character because he does not provide danger for the character, for our two girls. He just provides some level of understanding, you know, and because their nature is to be human, and their nature is to be concerned about their mother, but also to be trying to help support their father and exploring this world that they've just moved into. His nature is nature. You know, it's to protect the world around him, and there's always been that human versus nature argument in a lot of Studio Ghibli films. This one's more surface level, but it's accessible in that way.
Yeah, and that's another, that's a good segue, because I was going to talk about, there's really no depth to this. If you're looking for like deep metaphors or really deep tones and themes, it's all on the surface. It's there, and it's kind of direct at you, even though this is animation with monsters and kind of for kids and point of view of kids, but there's really nothing that you have to really digest deeply.
I think the biggest entry point is understanding the style of a culture that's not yours. Like, we're talking as two Americans. I wonder if I would have liked this film had I seen it as a child. I know a lot of people who grew up watching these kinds of films. And I think this, again, of all of the Studio Ghibli films, this is the one that I can see being a gateway more so. Because I think actually the first one I saw was The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, because it was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, and I was trying to catch all those movies. And I thought that movie was not great when I first saw it. I'll just be honest with you, I just didn't.
I haven't seen it yet.
Film.
Okay,
and it wasn't until I'd kind of taken the spell and seen some of the more classic films. Now, having seen things like Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, The Cat Returns, Kiki's Delivery Service. After diving into those films a little bit more, there's kind of this nature of like most accessible to least accessible.
Right.
And Kaguya is a little bit more on that least accessible to me because it is so heavily fabulistic. This one is very accessible in the sense that you get to see the characters breathe them. And yeah, the depth is understandable depth. You know, it's just kind of getting used to how this world is constructed, because in other cultures they have things like animism, which is the idea that there are spirits for animals, spirits for locations, spirits for parts of this world. That's where Totoro comes from, and if you can get your mind into that ideal, you can accept it.
So and there's a concept, we understand from our culture that we have to have very bad people and very good people. And here it's just a journey of something where it's not really, we're struggling with good and evil, we're struggling, can we live together? Yeah, it's a kind of a loose conflict where it's not, our two main characters are not providing the conflict. Totoro's not providing the conflict. He's not really providing the solution either. Even though he's an assistant. It's more, I think, we tend to view the world around us as not a living, breathing organism. When we have plants, when we have all these things, but we tend to not see them in that way. Totoro gives us something to see as a humane, kind of a human-like, humanoid character that we can see as a living, breathing creature, and then we can accept what we're doing to the planet. We can understand what we're doing to the planet. Yeah. The animation is actually really, really talented, especially how you make rain very convincingly, not just the drops. And then the end of and I would say not just the drawing of animation, which is really, really remarkable, but you add sound that fits very well is so convincing that it enhances the experience. If the sound was slightly off, or a sound was slightly down or dubbed or matted, it wouldn't really be as successful. Including the scene with the rain. You get the sound of the rain, not just the like, oh, that's really cool that they did that. You're forgetting how all that sound of even the big fat raindrops and the boom and everything really makes this movie sell markedly well.
Yeah, it's a visual flair that is on display. Again, that's unique to not being an American
it's not
animation.
flashy. It's just really good. Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of when we talked about the Red Turtle, and being able to look at a film that allows you to breathe. And we criticized that with American Pop. It was a film that didn't give you time to breathe.
And when it did, it didn't do it right. Yeah.
You know, where you can really just take in the world. Little elements to it, like the little Totoros, like the little ones that are just kind of like, you know, moving around with their little, with their leaves.
Yeah, he's not the only one.
Just to view them, you know, in that way. Or the cat bus, which is like my favorite portion of the film.
It's so cringy, but it's so weird. Cringy, and it's so wonderful at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so cool about Miyazaki is he doesn't always. I'm sure he has a reason for every little portion of what he puts in the film, but he oftentimes says that things just kind of come out dreamlike. You know, another film that we're going to talk about soon here, Princess Mononoke.
Yeah.
He kind of came up with it 20 years before the film came out and just started drawing pictures of this woman living with animals in the forest. And like that translated over time, it's just those kernels of things where it's like, I want to put this in the film, I want to put that in the film. There's reasoning behind it all, but it's also not forcing you to find reason for it.
Exactly.
You know?
Right. He does it better, always better than I hear. God, they love green. I know Studio Ghibli just loves green.
Most of their films are so based in nature.
Right, so well, you have to do nature, but they have a lot of play with the green, of different colors and hues and greens, so it doesn't look flat. And they do like a lot of layers, so it's not like American Pop where it's rotoscoping. Everything is hand drawn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a little bit of computer dabbling.
I think later on they dabbled into placing computer animated stuff over some of the sequences, but I don't know if there was any on display here. Nothing that really jumped out at me.
But they take time to make them convincing characters. Even have May with her piece of corn, and she fumbles it, and then she awkwardly picks it up. That's about 2 weeks in the studio drawing that.
Yeah.
And we're like, why are we wasting our time with that? But it provides a sense of these characters really living in this world.
Mm-hmm. And that's why
make it authentic.
When we chatted about Kubo and the Two Strings, we talked about that taking that time to make the dinner at the beginning of the film. There's a lot of that to My Neighbor Totoro, where it's taking the time to just experience the world. And again, like that's one of those areas we don't hit on in American animation
because you have to get bombarded with your senses.
Yeah,
all that constant stimulation.
And I think if we allowed ourselves to just watch something and take it in and enjoy it, and some of the other studio films like that they've done have not been like that either. But this is one that definitely allows you to come into it and just kind of exist in the world. And it's such a quick runtime, 86 minutes. The film doesn't even really crack the 90 that is considered needed for most American film. It just lets you be in there for a little while, you know?
Yes.
And it craves for more.
That's right. I always thought, why did they never make a sequel to this? Because I think there is a sequel.
There is a short film sequel, I'm counting it, called May and the Kitten Bus. The problem is I can't find it anywhere. Okay. I think it might be on YouTube. I think it was released with either Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke. They put it kind of like
a record back B-side, right?
Yeah, where they popped it out there with the film because they just felt like we can get this, out and visible.
But it's not it's the cat bus.
It's May and the kitten bus, I guess, if you will.
All right.
And I've not seen the film. I think it only runs like 13 minutes, but I'm looking.
Put the link in the comments section.
Yeah, if we can find it, or if you can find it, please let us know. We'll pop that in there as well.
Yeah.
I think it craves for more of that world though, and that's why I like that Miyazaki is kind of the head of this studio, because so many of his films have these little like intermingling to them. Totoro does make other appearances in other films, very small ones, but then like the suit gremlins that show up in Spirited Away, and allowing your kind of like the creature design that he has feels like they're all kind of intermingling in each other's films.
So they all, like the monsters in the movies, all have some kind of purpose or a job, but it's not really hit you over the head with it. It's almost going to will show you, it demonstrate you that they will provide some kind of assistance or protection or whatever. But it's not like the overbearing. This is what they're here. They're here to save the day.
Yeah.
But they will assist you.
Yeah. It feels like the least story-based video game world, because like you visit characters, but you don't do anything really with them, and that's kind of the point, is that they're in there and you can just kind of see them and experience their time for a little bit. And I think its biggest message to me is experiencing nature and allowing yourself to get lost in it. Because
there's a lot of point of being lost, right? God, I forgot. There's a lot of point of being lost and trying to discover new things, right? Even going to the house and then they go ahead and explore, hey, going through and check everything, and then they make a game out of it, and look at this. There's a window like this that does that. So there's a French of let go out and discover things.
Yeah. And I really liked. I mean, I've seen 2 versions of the film with 2 different kinds of dialogue. I've seen the original native dialogue with subtitles. My most recent viewing of it, I watched the English dub.
That's the one I found.
That had the 2 Fanning sisters, Dakota and Elle, playing our 2 sisters in the film, and Tim Daly as the father. And I really like the vocal performances in that. I think this is one of the, again, like, because the film is so simple, and not in a bad way, simple in a good way. The film is so simple that both versions of the film are very evocative of the same things.
Okay.
Now, again, when we compare it to other films that we'll talk about, we've seen there's a lot of heavy adaptation done with the English versions of certain Studio Ghibli films. This is one that's kind of, again, very fluid between those 2 worlds.
Right, gosh. Is there anything ever in Studio Ghibli, is the wind ever sitting still?
No, there's literally a film called The Wind Rises that they made. So no.
I'm the setup man. I'm always the setup man for the joke, right? Yeah. And everybody's almost wearing, the kids always wearing diapers. They look like they're wearing diapers. Yeah. That's another little gimmick. I love the freshness of it. And another thing is the set in time. What kind of time? Because this is not like almost like present day, is it?
Much like the tuberculosis, it's not given, but it is set in the 50s.
Okay.
That's been stated in some of the behind the scenes material. But again, it doesn't feel like, and this is probably a cultural thing too, we always want to place it in time in America.
Yeah.
And I'm a big timeline person. I want to see when it's set and where it is.
No, it's
so much of the studio's films are so dreamlike and narrative, so fantastical with their elements that they don't place themselves in a time period.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a clock or anybody cares about what time it is during the entire movie. So the emphasis of time is kind of elusive or not really emphasized. And like when we talk about movie theory, time is kind of really super relative. Like, we can put something 200 years ago, but we can update it. Yeah. We talked about like the movie The Keep is supposed to be 1940, where you put modern music into it. So,
or how The Simpsons have not aged in 32 years.
Yeah, they always reference that. But you're due for growth spurt eventually. Yeah, that's one of the jokes. So we talked about that, and especially in movie theory, that time is not so much a stamped staple that you need to emphasize with. And Studio Ghibli, especially in this movie, they really go with it.
Yeah, it's again such a loose narrative, such a loose structure to it that time doesn't really matter, except how it relates to scene to scene.
That's why you can make a movie that's supposed to take place in an hour and film a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. And
a bomb's going to go off in an hour, but it's a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, I do respect those films where they say something's going to happen in 30 minutes and it actually does, because that's a lot there. But we don't get that here. So
I think the famous one is Nick of Time, which is like there's going to be a bomb going off in 30 minutes, and it's an hour-and-a-half movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You got to respect Al Pacino's 88 minutes, people.
It's not 88 minutes, right? Yeah.
So finally, what do you think about My Neighbor Totoro? Is this your first kind of like time into Studio Ghibli? I do think it's the most accessible. Maybe the only other in terms of like simplicity is The Cat Returns, because The Cat Returns is just kind of such a fun. It's a very Disney-fied kind of story. So those 2 films, I think, if you're looking to jump into this world, especially if you have kids, those are the 2 most accessible. Not all Studio Ghibli films are the most accessible for children. Some of them kind of dip into PG-13 and R-rated elements. So this one, I think, is a really good starting off point if you haven't seen the film.
And a lot of the criticisms for this movie is what really is working for it. It's very benign. I don't want to use the word safe, because there are some things of really elements of risk and danger, and the kid gets lost and stuff like that. But it's a story that really is accessible for all people to understand. But a lot of people are not going to be attracted to that. They want to see some kind of risk, danger, fights, and all that stuff. We get used to American movies and especially with Disney, where we have good, bad, evil, rotten people, and then really nice and movies. But this is not it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Actually, my niece will be staying with me for a couple of days soon, and when she does, I'm really excited to show her My Neighbor Totoro, because I don't think she's seen these kinds of films, and she's
Yeah.
at that perfect
You
age
gotta
where
watch
it's
that.
like I want to sway her with some of my nerdy stuff, because I know her parents don't like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, so I got now my time.
No, it's
So-
you got to be that uncle.
Yes, exactly. So,
exactly.
hey, were you that kind of an uncle? Were you the person where like you kind of slid in that nerdy stuff like Studio Ghibli films? Let us know in the comment section down below. And did you like this film? Did you like our breakdown of it? Do you disagree with some of our thoughts on it? We'd like to hear about that too. Let us know. Comments. And you can also like this video. You can subscribe to the channel, or you can check out the Patreon too. Heck, even sharing the video. You guys don't know how simple something as a like, a subscribe, a share can really do wonders for our channel and for both of us emotionally.
Tell us what it works.
Yeah, definitely. So once again, I'm Kyle Goethe, and you can find all my film reviews on goathfilmreviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and we'll see you later.